Scottish anthem first. Players now break to complete their warm-up for the match. And with just 2.5 minutes to kick off, the players now saluting the supporters all around the ground. Well, you see the Lions rampant there, as well as the Australian flags on the terraces. And there really is a carnival atmosphere inside the Olympic Park. So there's the angle from behind the Australian moment. The Brazilian officials congregating in the middle, waiting for the players to join them. And there is the Australian line. Despite the numbers there, Robbie Dunn wearing number 15 will play at centre back, and Jimmy Patikas wearing 18 will play in midfield. And the Scottish side showing no late changes. They're without Strachan, without McLeish, and without Steve Nicol from the first leg at Hampden Park 2 weeks ago. So Jim Leighton getting some practice, getting some help from Speedie wearing number 7. So the Scottish players now waiting while the photographs are taken in the centre circle. The Australians also no doubt impatient for the match. There's been a very long build-up for the Scots, who arrived here on Friday to get over the jet lag problems. And now the big moment is near, and 20 minutes late. These sides from a place in the World Cup finals in Mexico next June. So there's the high-angle camera showing the Scottish warm-up. It's about half an hour before the start to acclimatise fully to the playing surface. There's John Kosmina, number 9 for Australia, on whom many of their hopes are pinned. He is the top goal scorer in the Australian side with 24 goals from 46 full internationals. Former Arsenal player, and clearly a man on whom Australia will be depending a great deal tonight. So the toss of the coin has been carried out, and the teams will stay as they are now, which leaves the Australians defending the goal to our left. The referee now asking for the practice balls to be removed from the playing surface, and it will be Scotland who will start the match. No, the referee waving away Frank McAvennie, who came forward, and it will be Australia who will kick off. So the Brazilian referee, José Roberto Wright, will get the game underway in a matter of seconds now. Scottish captain Graham Souness encouraging his men for the last time before the start of the match. He arrived yesterday, a long flight from Italy, but appeared none the worse, and slept for a long period on the plane. They're whistling around the stadium, encouraging the referee to get the game underway. But the referee is not entirely happy, signalling to the track. Looks very calm and impassive. There he is, Wright, British surname, but certainly a man who has made a big name for himself in world football, a full-time referee in Brazil. And he obviously will have a key role in the early stages as Australia get underway. The flood on, although the visibility appears to be excellent. And I'm delighted to have beside me in the commentary box Hugh McAvennie of The Observer. Hugh, great atmosphere.
Oh, inevitably so. I think it'll be better, even better, when the latecomers among our supporters make it in from the pubs. I think a few of them have still to get through the gates.
Well, the certainly was very early indeed. There's Richard Gough with the throw. Speedie and McAvennie hunting together for Scotland. Here's Speedie. That's for McAvennie. The cover arrives from Charlie Yankos, and a tremendous roar from the Australian supporters, greeting that decisive interception by the Australian sweeper. So the Scots opening up with Willie Miller behind the Scottish defenders. Richard Gough and Horace Malpas will look to get forward. That was McStay playing the ball in. Patikas robbed immediately by Souness. And the whistle is gone for an Australian free kick. Jimmy Patikas coming into the side in place of Joe Watson from the first leg. So Souness making his presence felt in the early moments. Davidson is number 2. Yankos from Australia. That's collected by Paul McStay for Scotland. Souness it back to Richard Gough. It's a long, hopeful ball for McAvennie. Yankos at the back. Australians, as usual, play with 3 central defenders. Ratcliffe, Dunn with Yankos behind. And there's Dave Mitchell playing it forward. Good turn of pace from Patikas to get to the ball. Patikas with the cross. And much too powerful, going beyond for the goal kick to Scotland. But Jimmy Patikas making a very promising start to the match. He played against Scotland in the Youth Championships in Mexico a couple of years ago against the likes of Neil Cooper and Paul McStay. Indeed, he scored the winning goal against Scotland in Mexico for Australia. And there's his cross behind the goal kick.
Yeah, see, he's been making some fairly substantial about his powers of acceleration in the Australian press, Patikas, but it must be acknowledged that he did show a fair amount of speed there.
Tackled by Aitken, and that'll be a Scottish throw. So the Australians now facing this 2-goal deficit from the first leg at Hampden Park 2 weeks ago. But Frank Arok, the manager of the Australian side, has made it clear that there will be no hectic, all-out attacking. They'll stick to their usual formula and look to break down the Scottish defence. Some breaks from midfield.
I think we can all be pretty sure that although Frank Arok has been saying they'll be very sensible and will take it easy, they won't rush into attack, that's because it's the only way they can play. They've got to make defensive work the basis of anything they do out there tonight.
Jennings, the full-back. He's back now with Terry Greedy, the school teacher who keeps goal for Australia. Header from McLeish. Speedie first to the ball. Here's McAvennie. Now, Davy Cooper has started the match on the right wing for Scotland. And I think that's a mark of respect to some extent for Graham Jennings, the number 3 for Australia, on the part of Alex Ferguson, who, in my opinion, of the Aussie number 3 in the first leg. So he's forced more about defending and attacking with Cooper on the right. This is Kevin Murphy for Australia. Crunching tackle. It was Willie Miller who challenged. Roy Aitken lofting it forward. Speedie chase. Doing a bit of pushing on David Ratcliffe, the Australian number 5. The free kick is quickly taken. And is now with Alan Davidson, Nottingham Forest right back. And this is Oscar Crino in midfield. Patikas making for the dead ball line again. Well tackled by Willie Miller. So Patikas making his presence felt once again, and this time on a kick for Australia. This is good attacking play by Patikas, taking on Miller, heading for the byline, and a good tackle in the end from the Scottish sweeper. The corner kick will be taken by Oscar Crino. Australia with tall men up from the back, but it's won by McLeish. Crino takes his eye off the ball, and that's a let off Scotland, taking a bit of pressure off. Crino to see where he would play the ball and letting it in for the throw. So there you go. Speedie under pressure from Jennings. Lunge, and it's Roy Aitken. Careless one picked up by Murphy. Aitken putting it into the Australian half. So just over 5 minutes of the match gone. Still no scoring, and Australia making an impressive start to the match, getting forward perhaps a little more than we all thought.
That's certainly the case at the moment. This man Patikas already suggests that he could be an extra element. He's playing much more aggressively than any Australian played in Glasgow. Simply because he's got utterly genuine pace.
So McAvennie is challenged, the ball goes to the Scottish throw. So Scotland still really to settle in midfield, looking to Graham Souness and Paul McStay to deliver the passes from that area, with Aitken providing the drive and the power. Here's Souness. No qualms about playing it back to McLeish. And he in turn uses his average teammate, Jim Leighton. Morris Malpas coming short of the throw out. Cooper has now switched to the Scottish left. McAvennie showing good control initially. Good tackle by Ratcliffe. A challenge from Murphy. Souness a shade casual as he moved on to the ball. So again, Scotland calming things down, trying to control the game, but we already heard Ferguson in that interview before the match indicate that he would like to defend in the Australian half.
The Australians aren't making that all too easy at the moment. But I think if Scotland are the team we believe them to be, and if their talents are superior to those of Australia, as we're sure they are, then signs of aggression from the opposition should be in Scotland's favour. If Australia do indeed open out more than we suspected they would, the task should, at the end of the day, be slightly simpler for Scotland.
So Patikas again getting onto a loose at the edge of the box to have a goal. Bit of barging into McLeish, being complained about by the Scottish players. Willie Miller having a word with referee Wright, complaining that McLeish was being barged as the ball was in the air.
I think if Willie's going to complain about barging against Australians, he's going to be hoarse before the end of the night.
Aitken's header falls straight to Davidson. Dunn. That's for Dave Mitchell to chase, and McLeish slides into the tackle. Forced though to concede yet another corner kick to Australia. And already it's become clear that Scotland are a match to face tonight. Dave Mitchell anxious to prove a few things to Rangers supporters in particular, perhaps. With Dunn's header played away by Willie Miller. Scotland pushing out of the box. Murphy attacking them. Crino going through, a chance now for Australia. Going in on Jim Leighton. The whistle had already gone, but that was very courageous goalkeeping. Leighton. Well, the Scottish defence looking vulnerable for a second here. The Australians came through in number. A hand was used, I think, by Dave Mitchell, and that's why the free kick's been given. Commanding header by Dunn. Picked up by Souness. Once again, Murphy snapping in the tackle. Souness looking for Cooper on the left touchline, but the pass goes wrong, and the Aussies have possession once again. Davidson's throw, looking for Patikas. Davidson again under pressure from McAvennie, but resisting the challenge well. McStay chesting it down for Souness. 10 minutes of the match gone. Australia 0, Scotland 0, and Roy Aitken is penalised. There's Frank Allen and Eddie Thompson, the Australian coaching pair. Free kick to Australia, and again pushing the central defenders forward. Scotland leaving only Speedie and McAvennie up. Header came. Here's Crino. Souness into the tackle late, and that's a free kick to Australia. Well, the Australians still seeing the humorous side of that. Dave Ratcliffe exchanging a word with Souness. Still another set outside the box from which Australia will hope to capitalise. Jim Leighton organising his defence. Kevin take the kick. A long run up for Murphy. Flighted ball at the far post, but McLeish is there on his own. He's back into the danger area. Murphy again challenging. Hand was used by Australia, and Scotland have the opportunity to have some respite in defence and get the ball forward. Again playing it short back. McStay looking for Speedie, who's moved to the right. Cooper still hugging the left touchline for the moment. Souness hustled by Crino, but the free kick goes to Scotland. Souness to Malpas. And Patikas getting up very quickly on Malpas to make it impossible for the Scottish number 3 to go forward.
At the moment, the Australians are succeeding in applying the policy that Alec Ferguson hoped the Scots would be able to use.
Running by Malpas, stopped by Yankos, and Murphy has it again in midfield, trying to release Kosmina on the left. It's good from McStay. Chases on for Speedie, and that'll be the first corner kick of the match to Scotland. Speedie showing his tremendous acceleration over a short distance. And McStay was the architect of that move. A splendid pass, Speedie doing well, and Dunn also doing well for Australia with a late challenge.
Yes, they were making us defend in our area for a little while too long there. But this may be a shade healthier.
Dave Cooper lining up the in-swinger for Scotland. Richard Gough is going forward, so is Alec McLeish. Aitken also in the box. Well, that was dangerous, and no taker for Scotland as the Australians left it to each other, and it's gone harmlessly behind the goal kick. So a look at the grandstand here inside Olympic Park. The Australians favour the short goal kick to Charlie Yankos, forced to come into the box to play it back to because Dave Speedie was in close attendance. The goal kick must be retaken. Yankos winning his 16th cap. Here's Kosmina. Davidson looking for Patikas. Souness changes, goes to Murphy, and McStay blocks the forward pass at the expense of a throw-in to Australia. Jennings will take the throw, but the referee, I think, will be concerned about a firecracker which has been thrown onto the field. So police officers at the scene to eliminate that distraction. The Scottish throw, and the ball goes back to Jim Leighton, but we're still seeing very little of Scotland as an attacking force. Quarter hour of the match gone. You're not quite taking the pattern we all thought, perhaps.
Not taking the pattern that Alec Ferguson hoped it would. Alec felt, in common with most of us, that Australia would have to rely on their athleticism and their defensive capabilities, and presumably they will eventually, but for the moment they're hustling Scotland pretty effectively, and we're ragged in midfield. Graham hasn't his touch yet, Graham Souness, and Aitken and Paul McStay are finding difficulty in asserting themselves. The Australians are doing some very useful work in the middle of the park, and they're putting pressure on our defence.
Cooper going to Yankos. Not surprisingly, the Australian wins that high ball. Yankos again. Davidson takes over. Terry Greedy has the ball. Just a sign of trouble on the terracing on the far side. A gap has developed. Some policemen going to the scene, but play goes on in midfield. Again, Scotland have the free kick, which will be taken by Souness. Roy pushing forward to the edge of the box, and that's what a bother I mentioned. Aitken's header swept away in a hurry by Yankos. He's certainly a very important man at the back for Australia. He was at Hampden 2 weeks ago. Scotland at the throw, which Roy Aitken takes to Cooper. Cooper barbs down by Davidson. The free kick is given to Scotland by the referee, who was right on the spot. Cooper himself may well take this kick. He's very accurate indeed in these set pieces, as we saw at Hampden also with the opening goal from the free kick. Certainly not a direct shooting opportunity here, I don't think. Souness is over to dictate things with Cooper. Far post ball. Away again by Yankos, and it's with Robbie Dunn, number 15 for Australia. He didn't play in the first match. He played O'Connor, who was booked and accordingly suspended in the last match between the sides. Here's Jennings. Murphy seeing one of the ball in midfield for Australia. Now Davidson. Gough changing Mitchell. By McLeish. Leighton totally committed, and that was very commanding goalkeeping. Landing okay, but sorting out the arguments for Scotland in defence, as Mitchell and Kosmina made life very difficult in the box. So the looping head of Patikas. Miller trying to make a path for Jim Leighton. So this just continues. Number Scotland in both backs. Davidson and Jennings pushed into the flanks in that area, with just 3 men left at the back for Australia, marking Speedie and McAvennie. Scotland haven't been able to push Gough and Malpas into the midfield area very often so far in the match. Here's Jennings. Leighton again is committed. The ball is free, and again the whistle goes as the Australians go thundering in to create the opening, and Leighton has taken a knock. Frank Arrock was perhaps sensing the opening goal for Australia.
And there was a real danger that would come in that moment if, here we go with the replay of it. God, if Jim Leighton's going to have to take risks of that kind, we're not in for a very comfortable evening.
Still, the goalkeeper has had a very good start to the match. He certainly has inspired confidence throughout the defensive ranks. And there's a contingent of the Scottish fans. 10,000 Scots in the stadium, most of them of course coming from Australia, and a contingent also, we understand, from New Zealand. So there's the main grandstand here in the Olympic Park. Jim Leighton has recovered. 20 minutes gone, still no scoring. McAvennie getting a good header, but no one in position except David Ratcliffe for Australia well to make that challenge. Yankos mopping up at the back, McStay put under pressure. That was good play from the Celtic midfield player. Yankos no doubt much more time on the ball than McStay would allow. Souness will take the throw. Cooper again switching across to the right. Souness with the pass, and it's gone for an Australian throw. Rather ambitious ball that from the Scottish captain.
Well, it's very clear that the crowd trouble wasn't at all minor. There's a heavy concentration of police in there now, and it's clear there was a real battle underway.
Still the gap on the terracing, but it appears as though the police have things under control. Davidson immediately put under pressure by Speedie. That's why the pass went wrong. Malpas to Speedie, that's from Malpas again, good play from Scotland. And Robbie Dunn's tackle. Well, the referee has given the goal. Malpas, who made that very telling intrusion into the Scottish attack, has taken a knock. Appears to be in some trouble, but this was fine play from Scotland. Speedie sending the ball forward for Malpas. Tackle came in, and you see Malpas taking the full brunt of the challenge from Robbie Dunn.
And it's an injury to his left ankle.
So the game going on with Scotland reduced to 10 men. Malpas getting treatment on the just outside the byline. Fast, incisive tackle from Speedie on Alan Davidson. Here to be Patikas. Mitchell going beyond the McLeish. Good play from the Australian striker. The header saved by Leighton. And a tremendous save from John Kosmina. That was Jim Leighton to the rest of Scotland once again.
That was
world-class goalkeeping.
It was a marvellous break. Ball from Patikas, and then it was a break on the right by Mitchell. And a very good centre, good header, tremendous save.
So a life again for Scotland, who are certainly living very uncertainly in the opening stages of the match. The first quarter now has gone, and not a lot to make Scottish supporters feel at ease. Speedie standing that tackle from Patikas initially very well indeed. Miller thumping it forward. McAvennie trying to get beyond Robbie Dunn. He's done well for Scotland. The referee waving play on. Some forlorn hopes for a free kick. Frank McAvennie certainly thought he was fouled, but it appeared to be hard to argue with the referee's view of that incident. Gough's challenge. Richard Gough going in again on Mitchell. Referee waving play on because Australia still has possession. Crino playing it forward. Patikas again running at the Scottish defence, getting away from Aitken. Here's Davidson. Malpas blocking his path. Gough going up. That's what he does so well for Scotland. Jennings tackled instantly for Scotland by Souness. That was fine defending by the Scottish captain. McAvennie sent tumbling. The Scottish bench clearly must be feeling the anxieties of World Cup action. I think McAvennie took the full brunt of that challenge in the back, and Scotland have possession from the free kick. Souness finding a gap forward. McAvennie. Patikas made the initial challenge, which won possession back for Australia, and it's Patikas again. Very anxious indeed to make an impression on the match, and succeeding at the moment. Crino's pass goes astray. It's red for Scotland by Willie Miller. McAvennie is offside. Greedy very quickly off his line, but the flag was up instantly, and the referee reacted immediately, so there was no chance on for McAvennie, but that didn't detract from the goalkeeping of Terry Greedy for Australia. Once again, the throw was conceded on the far side. Nick Ferguson, Walter Smith on his right. Tackle from Willie Miller. Oh, that's super play from Paul McStay. Has McAvennie and Speedie up in attack. Still Paul McStay going all the way himself. Marvellous play from McStay, applauded on the Scottish bench. A good save from Greedy, and Scotland have the corner kick. Well, this is much more encouraging, Hugh.
Well, that's the kind of declaration of quality that Scotland very badly need at the moment. That was a marvellous burst and a good shot by McStay. And at a time when we must admit that we have been outplayed thus far by Australia, we certainly need that kind of intervention from the quality players in our...
So David Cooper will take corner kick for Scotland. Left. The crowded penalty area as Cooper loops the ball in towards the far side. Up goes David Speedie, one of the smallest players on the Scottish side. Malpas. He was was offside, so too was McAvennie. And Australia will have the free kick. So approaching the half-hour mark, Australia 0, Scotland 0, but that is a scoreline which should please Scotland more than Australia on the balance of play so far.
Yes, already this match is shaping to become another of the classic agony in the history of Scottish football. But at least it has one major difference from many of our experiences in the past. We're seeing magnificent goalkeeping on behalf of Scotland. And as we all know, that hasn't always been the case.
Murphy doing well again for Australia in midfield. Winning that joust with Souness to set up the attack for Australia. Davidson playing it in, but McLeish thumps it away, and here's Speedie now with McAvennie coming close. Now Aitken waiting for Malpas to make the run, which he does willingly once again. Looks for support inside. And Ratcliffe turns it back. Frank Arup was undoubtedly in some anguish about the clearance. Certainly appeared to be a little danger as Ratcliffe turned that behind. Scotland again have a corner kick, which Davy Cooper is in no particular hurry to take.
It would be nice if the Australians had the decency to panic now and again.
So the Scots line up in the middle as Cooper sends it this time. McLeish nodding it forward, up goes Speedie. He gets up very well indeed. And once again Scotland have the corner kick. So at last some concerted pressure from the Scots on the Australian defence. A goal, of course, for Scotland would make the Australian task, you would think, virtually impossible, because that away goal would prove crucial in the event that Australia managed to find the net a couple of times. There's Cooper. The cross goes beyond McLeish. And indeed runs for the throw-in. So the Scots defenders get back Gough and McLeish and Roy Aitken.
Do seem to have lost some of their momentum in midfield for the moment, and that must bring little relief to Alec Ferguson, because I'm sure that in common with several of us, here we go.
McAvennie taking on Yankos and looking for a penalty kick, but that's not the sort of award you tend to get in World Cup action. McAvennie on goal, but Yankos denying him any space at all. Good play on that occasion, again coming from the Scottish midfield, with Souness becoming more influential in that area.
I don't think Frank's mother could have imagined that was a penalty.
Well, from behind the goal it looked a little bit less healthy for the Australians, but
Lost the ball completely anyway, and I think he made a lot of the collision when it happened.
So Terry Greedy walking the ball out for Australia. Australian pace seems to have dropped a little as Patikas has been less involved in the action in the last 10 to 15 minutes. The Scots reacting to the threat he posed in the opening 10 minutes. McAvennie appeared to be barging into Ratcliffe, and a bit of unpleasantness caused by McAvennie's challenge. And the Brazilian referee will now calm things down. But Frank McAvennie, I don't think, can be too pleased with his involvement in that. The high ball, he certainly was not watching. He was running towards Ratcliffe, and that's what upset the Australian defenders. Well, just past the mark, still no scoring here on Olympic Park, Melbourne. Conditions remain absolutely ideal. The temperature continuing to drop gently to around the 60 mark. Scotland problems in that regard. And splendid running by the Australians. It's Jennings on the left. Once again, the high ball was won by McLeish. Bad piece of control at the edge of the box by Davy Cooper, but it comes to no harm as the shot goes through harmlessly to Jim Leighton.
You were saying the Australians lost quite a bit of their authority in the middle of the park. Patikas became quieter, and Murphy, who was ambitious and mobile earlier,
Speedie was offside, so too was McAvennie. And Australia will have the free kick. So approaching the half-hour mark, Australia 0, Scotland 0, but that is a scoreline which should please Scotland more than Australia on the balance of play so far.
Yes, already this match is shaping to become another of the classic agonies in the history of Scottish football. But at least it has one major difference from many of our experiences in the past. Seeing magnificent goalkeeping on behalf of Scotland. And as we all know, that hasn't always been the case.
Murphy doing well again for Australia in midfield. Winning that joust with Souness to set up the attack for Australia. Davidson playing it in, but McLeish thumps it away, and here's Speedie now with McAvennie coming close. Now Aitken waiting for Malpas to make the run, which he does willingly once again. Looks for support inside. And Ratcliffe turns it back. Frank Arup was undoubtedly in some anguish about the clearance. Certainly appeared to be a little danger as Ratcliffe turned that behind. Scotland again have a corner kick, which Davy Cooper is in no particular hurry to take.
It would be nice if the Australians had the decency to panic now and again.
So the Scots line up in the middle as Cooper sending this time. McLeish nodding it forward. Up goes Speedie. He gets up very well indeed. And once again, Scotland have the corner kick. So some concerted pressure from the Scots on the Australian defence. A goal, of course, for Scotland would make the Australian task, you would think, virtually impossible, because that away goal would prove crucial in the event that Australia managed to find the net a couple of times. There's Cooper. The cross goes beyond McLeish. And indeed runs for the throw-in. So the Scots defenders get back Gough and McLeish and Roy Aitken.
Do seem to have lost some of their momentum in midfield for the moment, and that must bring a little relief to Alec Ferguson, because I'm sure that in common with several of us, here we go.
McAvennie taking on Yankos, looking for a penalty kick, but that's not the sort of award you tend to get in World Cup action. McAvennie boring in on goal, but Yankos denying him any space at all. That's good play on that occasion, again coming from the Scottish midfield, with Souness becoming more influential in that area.
I don't think Frank's mother could have imagined that was a penalty.
Well, from behind the goal it looked a little bit less healthy for the Australians, but
he had lost the ball completely anyway, and I think he made a lot of the collision when it happened.
So Terry Greedy walking the ball out for Australia. Australian pace seems to have dropped a little as Patikas has been less involved in the action in the last 10 to 15 minutes. The Scots reacting to the threat he posed in the opening 10 minutes. McAvennie appeared to be barging into Ratcliffe, and a bit of unpleasantness caused by McAvennie's challenge. And the Brazilian referee will now calm things down. But Frank McAvennie, I don't think, can be too pleased with his involvement in that. The high ball, he certainly was not watching. He was running towards Ratcliffe, and that's what upset the Australian defenders. Well, just past the mark, still no scoring here on Olympic Park, Melbourne. Conditions remain absolutely ideal. The temperature continuing to drop gently to around the 60 mark. Scotland said no problem in that regard. And splendid running by the Australians. It's Jennings on the left. Once again, the high ball was won by McLeish. Bad piece of control at the edge of the box by Davy Cooper, but it comes to no harm as the shot goes through harmlessly to Jim Leighton.
As you were saying, the Australians lost quite a bit of their authority in the middle of the park. Patikas became quieter, and Murphy, who was ambitious and mobile earlier, faded out a bit, but we're making problems for ourselves.
McAvennie was looking for Speedie, but allowing Dunn to a late challenge by Murphy. And the referee taking a firm hold on the match. Cooper had played the ball away before Murphy arrived. So Scotland have the free kick. And the Australians already thinking about a substitute. Terry Gray not happy with his defensive positioning as soon as plays it forward, varying the pattern, the low one to Speedie. McStay trying to force it wide. Crino gets away from McStay. Ball played into space for the pace of Patikas. McLeish, but here's Davidson for Australia. Souness waiting at the edge of the box. Speedie taking up good position wide again. He's away from Dunn. And the body check from Murphy brings another free kick to Scotland. But David Speedie looking very positive whenever he gets possession. The scorer of 6 goals for Chelsea in the last 7 matches. And that's without a nod, of course, over Graham Sharp, the Everton striker, as Dalglish dropped out of the squad. So Speedie with a tall Robbie Dunn as Malpas. Lots forward. Gough is in the box. Played away by Dave Mitchell, standing in no ceremony at all to get the ball to safety for Australia. And while the Australians are very anxious to get forward, they're also extremely conscious of the damage by just 1 Scottish goal. McStay got in 2 minds as he came inside. He's lost possession to Jennings. Jennings again. And Murphy this time popping up on the right flank for Australia. Trying to go outside Roy Aitken. An Australian throw. Aitken's determination written all over his face. So Murphy is lining up a long throw for Australia, looking for the tall players in the box. Well, came off the head of Roy Aitken for yet another throw to Australia. There's Murphy, the former Dundee United player, with the throw again in the near post area. He gets it back. Far post cross this time. Malpas with the header towards safety on the flank. Looking with Cooper. Cooper forced by the immediate attention of Murphy to play the ball out for the throw. We still haven't seen the real creative talents of Davy Cooper. Murphy's throw again, posing problems for Scotland. Good, positive header. And that's turned out by Jennings. The Brazilian linesman indicates a Scottish throw. For Scotland, 10 minutes of the first half left, still no scoring as McAvennie goes in behind. Malpas coming to meet the ball, collected again by Charlie Yankos for Australia. Aitken getting help from Souness, but Souness again over elaborate in midfield. One back for Scotland by McStay. Now Roy Aitken. McStay making a forward run through the inside left channel. Cross beats Greedy, and there's no taker for Scotland, but once again it's Paul McStay who orchestrates from midfield for Scotland. Some fine play by the young Scottish player afield, just 21 years old. Oscar Crino now for Australia. Murphy again going to the right, finding space. Gough again going up, McLeish also. Australia again have the chance to test the Scottish defence in the air from a long throw. Change pattern this time, the short one to Jennings. Header falls straight to Davidson. The Australians have all the players except Dunn and Yankos back. They're all up, pushing forward to create the opening. Malpas turning it back, and the shot goes wide. A hand was used though by Dave Mitchell. And yet another moment for the Scottish defence to breathe uneasily. Coming from across again, fired across the penalty area. Turned away in the end by McLeish, but the whistle had gone for handball.
Yes, we're not short of anxieties up there in Jim Leighton's penalty area. I don't imagine he expected this kind of evening.
Dunn thumping it forward, Mitchell chasing with McLeish, Miller providing the cover. And that's a good tackle by McLeish. Kept on his feet, kept his eye on the ball. Speedie up with Yankos. McAvennie controls it well. He has Cooper on the left. Now a chance for Cooper to run at Davidson. Finding Speedie inside. McAvennie waiting in the middle, but here's Souness. Souness sprinted fully 20 yards to be available for that cutback from Speedie, but he couldn't get the shot on target.
You're quite right to emphasise the approach of Speedie. He said before this match that he was sure some of these big Australians would have a look at his physique and decide instantly that they'd have no problems with him, and he said he hoped that was exactly how they would see him. He said by the time they find out the truth, they'll be out of the World Cup. But they're certainly not out of the World Cup yet.
Certainly Dave Speedie has lived up to his pre-match intentions. Alec Ferguson remains pensive with his coach Walter Smith. It's the throw. Speedie forced to try to recover. Aitken is penalised and Speedie takes a knock in the face. So an Australian free kick. These situations always cause problems with men like Robbie Dunn to go forward to join the attack with Ratcliffe. Tall men, dangerous in the air. Davidson's free kick. Dumped high in the air and certainly not to safety for Scotland. Aitken being barged by Dunn. The referee allows play to go on. And the goal kick's been given to Scotland. So just a little over 5 minutes of this first half left. The honours undoubtedly going to Australia in the opening period, but the most important aspect for Scotland is the scoreline, which remains blank.
Yes, Alec Ferguson was well aware that there would be considerable danger from set pieces, from corners and free kicks. There's so many big, strong men in the Australian team. Frank Harrock says they're the best team in the world in the air. Well, that's obviously a bit of an exaggeration, but they can do damage in the air.
So Murphy takes the full brunt of an Aitken tackle, and the referee has had a word with the Scottish number 10. So Murphy goes down. That was a Roy Aitken, bringing an Australian move to a halt. Certainly brought the Australian bench to its feet. Again, Murphy still making a big impression on this first half for Australia, winning his 14th cap. Flighted in by Yankos. The cavalry charges on again, of the big men, but it's Leighton who comes out to settle any arguments for Scotland. Robbie Dunn very decisive with his challenge from defence. And this time it's Souness who's being spoken to by the referee. Indeed, the yellow card is coming out for the first time in the match. And it's the Scotland captain who is... Well, he missed the match in Cardiff through suspension. Had to watch the agonies from the stand. So the Scottish captain, there's the caution. There are some very attractive Scottish supporters. Australia come forward once again. What a difference a goal for them would make for the interval. This time it's Cooper who's fouled. Now, Hugh, for Scotland that they get to half without losing a goal.
Absolutely crucial, and I think they'll make it, but whether they deserve to make it is another question.
McAvennie goes up, Dunn stumbles. Speedie looking for some scraps inside the box, but no problems there for Ratcliffe for Australia. But McAvennie's hustling tactics again, making life tough for the Australian defence. He did so well in Hampden in his first national, giving the Australian defence no peace at all, and Ratcliffe content this time with a throw. Malpas crossing over, the win possession for Scotland, but it's back for the Australians, the form of Jennings. McLeish standing his ground to head clear. Good challenge that time by Souness, giving McStay the chance to come forward. Good touch on McAvennie to Speedie. Cooper is available on the left. And can he take on Davidson? William Forrest fullback doing a good job once again, as he did indeed at the park. So Cooper leaves the throw to Malpas. Half-time whistle fast approaching. Leighton can hardly bear to watch as Aitken takes the throw for Scotland. Cooper sends it back. Aitken making for the byline past Oscar Crino. McAvennie couldn't call it well enough. Good play from Aitken. The chance goes a begging. A difficult one for McAvennie to control, and Australia have the goal kick.
Yes, that ball came very awkwardly to McAvennie. It was nice work by Aitken, but the final ball didn't give McAvennie much chance of getting a shot in.
Header from McLeish. He hasn't missed much of tonight. Morris Malpas. McAvennie coming to the left. Robbie Dunn standing his ground to head clear. Well, a rare error on the part of Paul McStay as far as control is concerned. So Australia have possession with the throw taken by Davidson to Murphy. Murphy again, back to Kosmina, playing it inside. Oscar Crino back to Murphy. Well, you can see the Australians setting up that shooting chance very deliberately indeed. Jim Leighton is showing enough form to suggest that he'll be very difficult indeed to beat from that sort of range. So there was the build-up. Crino waiting for Murphy to take up position. A lot of players between him and the goal. So with Leighton's goal kick, we're inside the final minute of the first half. Brief interruption only for treatment for one injured player. Speedie playing it at McAvennie. Back it comes to Aitken. Speedie making a second run for Scotland up front and winning it, or preventing it going for the throw, but having to concede goal kick. A tireless worker up front, David Speedie. Still to break his scoring duck for Scotland, although he was involved in that vital penalty incident at Ninian Park, Cardiff. Davy Cooper scored the goal, and Scotland the right to be in Melbourne. And there goes the half-time whistle. Australia 0, Scotland 0. The Brazilian referee calls for the ball, and the Australians go off. Certainly having taken the first half honours, first half display from Scotland, which has caused lots of anxiety among their supporters. The hero undoubtedly in the first half of Scotland was Jim Leighton, but Scotland still hanging on, no scoring. And with that, we hand you back to Arthur in the studio in Glasgow.
Well, I don't know what the tension's like at the Scottish bench, but it's pretty tense in here. Kenny, a quick comment on the first half. Was it more or less as you expected?
Well, obviously they've got to have a go if they're 2-0 down. Jim Leighton did a magnificent save from a header there. But apart from that and the odd scrambling about the goalmouth, I don't think Scotland have been under much pressure, really. They've not played as well as what they'd like to have played. Australia seem to be picking up an awful lot of things that are knocked down, both when attacking and defending. And I think if they pick up a bit more of those, they'll be a lot happier. But I think we're anxious.
OK, well, we'll take a short break here and we'll be taking a look at some of that first half action when you rejoin us in a couple of minutes from now. Good morning again. Welcome back to the Scott Sports Studio. Cup special. If a reminder that the half-time score in the Olympic Park in Melbourne is Australia 0, Scotland 0. Well, this was obviously always going to be a tough match for Scotland, and our commentator Hugh McAvennie of The Observer spoke to Alex Ferguson, the Scottish manager, just before the start of the match and asked him how he would pinpoint the dangers from the Australian side.
What do you see as the principal dangers that Australia will carry for us?
Well, they're a big side and they have a good spirit. I think their game is based in a defensive situation. But in set pieces, corner kicks, throw-ins, free kicks, they could be particularly dangerous because of so many big lads. I think it's important to make sure that we're not in our penalty box, that we defend outside the penalty box as much as we can. And our system tonight will be based on that we'll try to defend as well as we can and make sure we're in their half of the park, not our own.
You're scoring goals in their half of the park.
Well, I hope so, Hugh.
Thanks, Alex. Good luck.
Cautiously optimistic there, the boss, before the game. But I think if there was a moment in the first half where, you know, we breathed really heavily, was when Jim Leighton made that superb save. This was actually a difficult but a very good save at the end.
It's just reflexes, really. He's got right in the road of it. Unfortunately, it fell to Graham. Got a turn to hook it away.
At that point, the Aussies were busy. They were working, finding the men well. It was the kind of intensive pressure that we expected from them at this stage. It was a lovely move that started it, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mitchell threw big like a dummy and then got round behind him. They put over a good cross, actually, and Jim's a great save. It's nice to see it staying out.
At that point, the Aussies were really working well, and I know that that's how we expected it to be. But having said that, there wasn't a lot of Scottish attacks until Paul McStay actually decided to. This was actually one of the best moves of the match from Scotland's point of view, wasn't it?
I don't think it was ever going to beat the goalkeeper. It was just a little bit too straight, unfortunately. But it was a great run. I think that would give the players encouragement as well.
Yes.
I think most of the times when they've played along the floor and they've joined up with each other, they've got up in a decent position.
So a comment on the Scottish performance, just briefly so far, Kenny?
Performance doesn't matter. It's the result at the end of 90 minutes that will count. And hopefully it stays the same way.
Are you still getting those goose pimples that you mentioned at the beginning?
Jim Leighton's got to make saves like that, yeah.
Right, fair enough. OK, we're going to take a short break now, and of course we'll be going back to the Olympic Park in Melbourne in just a few minutes to show you live the whole of the second half. The game finally balanced. Just to recap on the score, it's Australia 0, Scotland 0. We'll see you in a couple of minutes from now. So again, good morning once more from Glasgow, and a reminder, if you just joined us, that the half-time score in the vital World Cup playoff game in the Olympic Park in Melbourne is Australia 0, Scotland 0. The match very, very finely balanced. And of course, Scotland leading by 2-0 from the first match at Hampden Park 2 weeks ago. Kenny, we talked briefly there about the first half, and towards the end of the first half, it was noticeable, as we'll see in this clip, that the Scots were beginning to push forward with a little bit more determination. A good run here from Roy Aitken. Yeah.
As I said before, there's twice David Speedie and then Malpas almost got in. Just by playing the ball along the ground and creating a bit of space for themselves. Fine.
See what's happening out there. The team's not quite out for the start of the second half, and this gives us an opportunity to have a quick word with Jock Brown and Hugh McAvennie, who are our commentators out there. Jock, a very tense first half by all accounts. It certainly looked that way from here. Did you feel the tension yourself?
Without question, Arthur, it was a case of agonies once again in a Scottish World Cup occasion. It really has been very difficult indeed to watch us go through this mill once more. We never seem to make it easy at all. Hugh, I think that was your feeling too.
It was my feeling. An Australian asked me a moment ago if I felt Scotland had done enough to satisfy in the first half, enough to cause about 400 attacks around the ground.
Well, we should say
it really was pretty hellish.
We should say to Hugh, by the way, if he's hearing us...
Yes, it's been a very difficult time for the Scots, but the teams are now reappearing, as you can see, Arthur.
Right. One final comment. David His mother did phone to say she thought it was a penalty, by the way. Anyway, out they come for the start of the second half, Jock. We wish everyone well there, and we'll give you a quick opportunity to look to see half-time substitutions, Jock. All the best in the half.
Thank you, Arthur, and welcome back properly to Melbourne. In terms of action, we have the sides back in the field, and no sign at all of any Scottish substitution, I can tell you that. Hugh McAvennie is still chortling at the prospect that David's mother indicating that she thought it was a penalty kick when she phoned in, but Patikas is there for Australia, and the full bench appears to be the same for this second half for Australia. There was some indication of a warm-up being out by one of their players, but it appears to be the same two sets of 11 players who will start this crucial 45-minute period, which will sort out the fortunes of these sides as far as the World Cup in Mexico is concerned. Just a reminder, though, that should Australia manage to win by 2-0, we would go into extra time and, dare I say it, to penalty kicks. So it's Scotland who will start the second half. It will be very interesting to see what changes they may have made to the pattern with a view to stemming the Australian side of the first half. Well, in the interview from Alex Ferguson, he was anxious to defend in the Australian half. He didn't manage to do that in the first half. Let's see what changes have been brought about by the half-time tactics talks. The referee from Brazil taking a very long time to satisfy himself that everything is in order for the start of the second half here in Olympic Park, Melbourne, and the Scots get the match underway once again. So the long ball forward from Souness goes harmlessly behind for the goal kick, but certainly sends the ball to that Australian half.
I think one favour the Australians did us in the first half, Jock, was in becoming rather obsessed with getting the ball to Mitchell in the air. McLeish was doing very well in that competition up high. I think if they attacked McLeish on the ground, they might get more joy.
McLeish again showing good judgment there for Scotland, allowing Mitchell to go forward and miss the long high ball. McLeish himself was then fouled by Kosmina, and that's why Scotland have the free. The Souness. Now Malpas. Cooper. Dropped by Ken Murphy, who certainly had a fine first half for Australia. That was well read by Gough. Speedie coming back, sprinting into the tackle. Once again, an occasion when Ratcliffe clearly thought he was going to have more time to play the ball, but it's an Australian throw. And here's Jennings. Again, the high ball favoured by Australia. And once again, Scotland equal to the task as Davy Cooper collects away at the corner flag. Looking for McAvennie with a long ball forward. McAvennie, I think, penalised for a bit of charging into Robbie Dunn. And indeed, Australia again have a free kick. Frank Arrock is on the track, urging Dunn to get forward to join the attack. He can't believe his defender's reluctance to go forward. So again, the high ball in. Ratcliffe is underneath it with McLeish, who is once again the winner for Scotland. But throw gives Australia the opportunity to test the defence again with a long ball. Ken Murphy has shown his ability in that respect in the first half. Gough waiting in the precise area where he expects Murphy to send the ball. Came off the head of Dave Ratcliffe with a strong challenge from to get the ball behind for the Scotland goal kick.
When Gough attacks the ball on those occasions, he gives the impression that if there's a head in the way, he'll be right through it.
So picturesque setting here at Olympic Park. A balmy evening. Floodlights now on as darkness has descended. Remember, it's 9 o'clock in the evening here in Melbourne. Mitchell goes down, there was no foul. That was good refereeing by Wright, the referee. ignored the protests of Frank Arrock on the Australian bench. Yankos for Australia. Willie Miller keeping his eye on. McStay couldn't collect it. Could David Speedie. So Graham Jennings will take the throw. Patikas going inside Gough, a good challenge, but Patikas has the ball again for Australia. Kosmina trying to set something up. The break is on as Cooper releases Aitken through the middle. This is where Aitken shows his strength of purpose, but it's too far ahead of McAvennie. He's won it for Scotland. Dunn has made the error. But Australia get the ball forward. Time very much the enemy for the Australians. Yankos thumping it forward. Patikas and Mitchell go for the ball, but Gough wins it for Scotland. What a tremendous asset. Richard is at the back for the Scottish side. He missed the game in Glasgow, where Steve Nicholls' attacking ability was preferred. Kosmina playing it in again. Goes Mitchell. It's too far out for the header, and Leighton has all the time in the world to collect for Scotland. Still, we've yet to see Scotland as the attacking force in the second half of the match. Malpas wins it. Played forward by Davidson, but that's a rather hopeful ball which causes no trouble for the Scottish defence. Banner hanging from the roof of the covered terracing, reflecting a hostelry in Edinburgh. Aitken to Cooper. Kosmina comes deep, shielding the ball from Aitken. Yankos takes over. It's now with Alan Davidson. Mitchell chesting it down, but Souness intercepts, and now Miller and Souness bring the ball clear for Scotland. Miller sprinting forward as Souness looks for the gaps. Here's Willie Miller. First time pass was intended for McAvennie, but Willie Miller making the extra man in attack, almost getting through the Australian defence. Fine, solid tackle there by Richard Gough on Dave Mitchell. Gives the throw to Australia. Ken Murphy once again in midfield, faced with rather too much ease from the Scottish point of view. Dave Mitchell rather neat with the pass inside, and it's won by McAvennie for Scotland. He could take the ball for a run. Mitchell getting back with a tackle. Fields for a free kick, waved by Mr. Wright, the Brazilian referee. Gough's header falling for Crino. This is Kosmina. Now Patikas, and it's Jim Leighton once again reacting brilliantly to that shot from Patikas. Kosmina doing well initially, the ball breaking for Patikas. He didn't hang about, and the shot brilliantly parried by Leighton. Scotland's debt to Jim Leighton in this World Cup qualifying series is rapidly becoming mountainous. He alive in Iceland, there's no question about that, and he's done that here as well. Scotland getting forward with Malpas to Aitken. Brought down by Murphy. His strength carries him forward. There goes Cooper. Going all the way. Down the tackle, and the referee waves aside appeals for penalty kicks. The Scottish bench can't believe it. On their feet to a man, but their play rages on as the Australians come forward. Patikas again making for the byline. And straight across the 6-yard box. There was no taker there for Australia. Dave Mitchell just out of reach as Patikas played the ball in. Well, this makes you wonder why Jimmy Patikas was not selected for the first match in Glasgow. He's been a threat right from the start of the match, and that cross could so easily have been converted for the opening goal. But question marks undoubtedly about the penalty kick.
Oh, I think I'd take a lot of convincing that we didn't have a pretty strong case in that instance.
We were
significantly deprived of a replay, I think, weren't we there?
Yes, the Australian director electing not to show us that again, but there was a lot of action going on at the other end, so it's Australia again who have possession. Charlie Yankos. Interception by McLeish, and Cooper has a bit of space now to attack Davidson. Electing to come inside this time, gets support from Aitken. Return pass from Speedie, down goes Aitken this time, no question about it that time. A free kick's been given. It's been given at the edge of the box as Aitken goes down, and I wonder if Scotland can profit from this situation as they did in Glasgow. The return ball from Speedie was a fine one for Aitken, and that was a callous tackle by Yankos. Certainly was outside the box.
Definitely outside the box. Some of the people on our bench clearly thought he was inside, but he was about a yard outside.
Well, that, for my money, the worst foul of the match so far. A calculated one on Aitken as he powered his way through into a goal-scoring position. Well, when that happened 2 weeks ago, and McAvennie, Davy Cooper stepped up to ease the strain for Scotland with that thunderous free kick. There are a number of options available to Scotland. Graham Souness, of course, can be deadly, so can Davy Cooper. And the Australians recognising that with a five-man wall and Yankos behind it. Scots subs warming up. Just on the line. Mr. Cooper. The referee not happy with the positioning of the wall. 10 yards. Souness. McStay. Deflected, but the ball McStay for the corner kick is fruitless. And Paul McStay with the effort at goal. Not very accurate, as you see from this. Certainly did appear to take a deflection, and the Scots certainly thought so, but the goal kick's been given. So 10 minutes into the second half, still no scoring here in the Olympic Park, Melbourne, as Scotland begin to assert themselves a little more attack. One very strong penalty claim denied as Davy Cooper went down, and then the foul on Aitken required to prevent a very good scoring opportunity for Scotland. There must undoubtedly be increasing anxiety in the Australian ranks as time goes by. 35 minutes left. They have to find the net 3 times to earn the right to go to Mexico for the finals in June.
Yes, I think they must be coming to the conclusion that the future is behind them. That their great chance came in the middle of the first half when they were doing so well. Every minute that passes now multiplies the pressure on them. As they get more tired, they're liable to get more resigned. Unless, of course, they contrive something special for themselves right now.
Well, they had the chance. That free kick for the challenge on John Kosmina gives Alan Davidson a chance to test the Scottish defence in the air once again. Lofted ball, up goes Gough. Get to Robbie Dunn is there. It was blocked brilliantly by Willie Miller. Attacking that ball in the box, he does so well for Scotland and Aberdeen. And now Speedie on the break. Winning some space for himself. Paul McStay sprinting up on his outside. Still McStay. It's beyond McAvennie and also beyond Davy Cooper.
That was very good play indeed by Speedie in particular. He cushioned the ball back to McAvennie very well and then broke on the return splendidly.
McStay winning it for Scotland again. Debt though undoubtedly due to Willie Miller in that last Australian attack. Fine blocking tackle as the shot came in. Here's Dave Speedie. Souness off to go outside, uses him as a decoy. The out-swinging ball flighted in, and Greedy does well to beat the ball clear for Australia. Miscue by McStay. He does well to recover and finds Souness. Souness looking for a 1-2 going forward. He was bolted in and so. He was penalised. Again, a free kick kick outside the box for Scotland. Perhaps too far out for a direct shot at goal, although we have seen some special efforts from Davy Cooper from this sort of range.
There's a definite hint now that the Australians are getting war-weary. I think our players can step up the pressure, then maybe reward for them at this stage of the game.
Also is Souness. Ball McStay. The chance is on for Scotland there, Speedie. McAvennie it was shot. Get on target. And that was sheer brilliance from the Scot, right until the finish. Well, that clearly came from the training ground. Lighted in by Paul McStay. McLeish getting free, nodding the ball across the far post. McAvennie and Speedie in a queue to get to the ball and managing to play the ball over the top.
Well, it struck the bar on the way over that one, so it was close enough.
And the final shot, I think, coming from Dave Speedie. Post. Well, brilliantly conceived set. Still fails to break the deadlock. Malpas and Aitken working hard at the field. Souness takes over to open the play through McStay. Good play again from the young Celtic player as Richard Gough picks it up on the right. Towards McAvennie. Well beaten by Dunn, who has missed nothing in the middle, in the air to the middle. There's Willie Miller.
I was just thinking when Willie made that tremendous block a couple of minutes ago, a lot of people in the crowd would think he was pretty lucky, but he's got a habit of doing that sort of thing.
Miller again challenging Mitchell. Complete determination. This is another ambitious ball, I think. First time played in by Malpas. Jennings to control it the first time. McStay with Gough making the angle, and Speedie came inside. Well, no question about that. A clumsy challenge by Speedie, correctly penalised by the referee. Speedie complaining about the quality of the pass. A quarter of an hour now into the second half. Still no scoring here in Olympic Park, Melbourne. Scotland still have the aggregate lead by the 2 goals scored in Glasgow. As Yankos pumps in the free kick. Once again, McLeish wins it. McStay on the break. Has Speedie as an option on his outside. Cooper is through the middle. McAvennie arriving late. Breaking the ball for Speedie. Cooper doing well to remain onside, but Jennings has lots of pace for Australia. Doing well to cover the break from Cooper and play it back to Greedy. Fine young midfield player come defender, Graham Jennings. Converted, being an orthodox outside left by Tommy Doherty. He's losing that one in the air. There goes Patikas with Morris Malpas. And a very cool piece of defending by the Dundee United defender. Sending the ball back to Leighton, but Patikas again with that explosive acceleration, posing problems for the Scottish defence. A look at the quality of this involvement from Malpas.
But also excellent work by Leighton. He made himself available and helped to get Malpas out of trouble.
Ken Murphy again, finding space on the right side of midfield for Australia. Davidson breaks for Crino. Egypt under pressure from Souness. Cross to destroy Aitken. Tense Australian bench. Get across again. Souness going to touch this. Kosmina. Gough and Miller was able to prevent him getting a clear shot. Frank Arrow clearly thought something was in the Scottish box. Speedie was fouled by Jennings. Free kick's been given, but once again Scotland living a shade danger as these balls are played into the box. Certainly can have complete confidence in Jim Leighton in this form, but still the Australians pushing men forward where they can. It has created an odd gap at the back. With McAvennie. Kept in play by pass, but Davidson's first of all to use his goalkeeper Terry Greedy. In fact, the ball had gone for the goal kick. The Yankos. Still no sign of activity in either bench as far as substitutes are concerned. Or is there some movement among the Australians? But for the moment, the sides remain unaltered as Jim Leighton takes the pass back from Willie Miller. Aitken's control wasn't positive enough. It was won by Souness. He hasn't quite been as influential in midfield as I'm sure Scotland would have liked. He certainly rejected any thoughts that the long journey for arrival had any on him as far as fatigue was concerned, but certainly not the commanding midfield player we've seen on so many occasions. There is indeed some activity on the Australian bench. Warming up as McStay breaks on the right for Scotland. Blocked by Ratcliffe. He did well to get it back towards Speedie, and that was a vital interception by Yankos for Australia. It's Oscar Crino now coming forward. The interception was by Souness. Good play from the Scottish captain. Aitken helps it wide. Cooper. Aitken charging forward again. McStay. Souness becoming more and more involved now. That's towards Cooper. A rear header from the Rangers winger. Crino playing it wide. Jennings. Gough intercepts for the benefit of McStay. Now Aitken. Crino steps in, but the Scots need to put some passes together in midfield, and that will undoubtedly have a tiring effect on the Australians.
Yes, there's no doubt that the Australians are showing signs of sinking under what we always considered to be the inevitable. But it's a little disappointing that McAvennie has been so peripheral in this game. He's done some good things, but he hasn't been the constant threat to Australia that I'd hoped he would be.
There's Richard Gough taking that fine lofted pass from Souness. Across the face of the goal again from Davy Cooper. It's picked up by Ken Murphy on the far side for Australia. And the Scots now asked Murdo McLeod to warm up. The Australians with two substitutes now warming up, and Scotland just with Paul McStay got treatment. He's now rejoined the battle. And certainly I don't think it's Paul McStay who's liable to be replaced. He's played very well indeed and been at the heart of most of the good creative work for Scotland. McAvennie towards Speedie. Ratcliffe wins it in the air. Jennings forward. Farina was well read by Gough. Once again, his understanding with McStay pays off. McAvennie coming to meet the ball. Two Australian defenders there. Yankos won it, and now it's with Oscar. Malpas intercepting. Couldn't keep the ball in play though, and wastes a few seconds by playing the ball over the Olympic running track. The Olympics held here in 1956 in this arena. So Australia come forward again. Graham Jennings. Up goes Gough. Played square across the 80-yard line. Crino couldn't get to it. His legs beginning to feel the pace as Aitken forward. Cooper playing it into space, but the offside flag goes up. Frank McAvennie tried very hard to get back into an onside position. Couldn't quite make it. And that Scottish attack breaks down. So 55 minutes.
Some
to the second half, still no score.
Some signs of agitation around Mr. Arrock and his Australian bench. I don't know what the results will be. We're obviously going to have a substitution here. We're going to have
Odzakov is going to come on.
yes, looks like Odzakov.
He'll play in midfield if he comes on, if he adopts his normal role. I wondered if the Australians might go for here another striker, but here's the change which is going to be made, and yes, the legs of Oscar Crino given out. He is being replaced by Odzakov, experienced 30-year-old player, to boost the Australian midfield. Crino departs. Martin McLeod has taken up his seat again for Scotland. Still no sign of a change. That was a sore one in Speedie. Ratcliffe came in heavily. The referee has given the throw in to Scotland, but that's a little consolation, I fancy, for the moment for Dave Speedie. Well, he shrugs the knock off. Waits for Gough's throw. Cooper is the man challenging. Picked up by Odzakov. Here's Patikas, a roar of anticipation around the stadium as he wins possession, taking on the Scottish defence himself, looking for a shooting chance. Kosmina playing it against Graham, and Paul McStay calms things down as he tidies up inside the Scottish box.
Some first touch by Odzakov. That ball Patikas was a beauty.
Souness slowing it down again for Scotland, playing it back to Jim Leighton. Clearly the current scoreline will do fine as far as Souness and his Scottish teammates are concerned. It certainly creates lots of anxiety for the Scots, the thousands of Scots inside the stadium. There's McAvennie going in bravely with Dunn, but the big defender wins it. And here's Ken Murphy, finding Kosmina, who's come deep away from McLeish. Now Davidson towards Mitchell. Good head down. Chance for Murphy to shoot. And it was McLeish that time attacking the shot. Block it. A shade too remote on the far side as Davidson wins it for Australia. Plays it back to Terry Greedy. So we're past the three-quarter point in the match. And thanks to Jim Leighton, Scotland are still on level terms at 0 apiece. And the Australians, with all the problems, trailing by 2 goals from the first leg. The Scots have now invited Maurice Johnston and Graham Sharp to warm up on the track. That would certainly be an interesting change. As Australia line up the free kick, I wonder if Odzakov fancies himself from long range. Scotland have a 2-man wall, Souness and Cooper. Here's Odzakov. That was a splendid effort from Odzakov, the substitute. It was rising all the time, and that's what took it over the crossbar. It was helped, though, by a fingertip save from Leighton. And the Aussies have a corner kick. The ball was swerving, and Leighton got a touch. Well, I don't think it would have gone in, even if Leighton hadn't touched it. Still some fine goalkeeping once again. Odzakov will take the corner. The cavalry charge once again in the box, but there's been some bumping and boring in the 6-yard box, and the referee gives Scotland a free kick.
The scoreline is perfectly satisfactory for Scotland at this point, but it's just impossible to kid ourselves about the way it's been achieved. If we play like this against the major powers in the game that we're sure to encounter in Mexico, then we'll be in deep trouble. It's all very well to say that these matches will be entirely different problems, that the opposition will bring out different qualities in the Scotland team. The simple fact remains that this is a very miserable showing for a Scotland team against moderate part-time players who are playing above themselves.
As Frank McAvennie trying to do something about that moderate performance mentioned by Hugh McAvennie. Certainly could take no issue with these observations. The Scots may well qualify if the Aussies can't conjure up these goals late on, but they certainly haven't taken a great deal of credit from the match. But however, we have been in many situations in the past where we've been unlucky in defeat and we've had glorious near things, so perhaps this is the changing scene in Scottish football. Ferguson on the track, area picture talking to Graham Sharp and Mo Johnston. It looks as though we may have a double substitution to freshen up the attack. McAvennie. Playing it wide now for Malpas, who leaves it. Cooper and goes in the overlap. Cooper lofting it in towards Speedie. The challenge came from Robbie Dunn, and that, I think, will be a corner kick. Speedie, I think, hoping for a little more, but to no avail. And indeed, the corner kick has been given. There's the flighted pass from Davy Cooper. Speedie going for it with total determination and commitment, and Dunn was matching his run all the way. Certainly no foul in that challenge from Dunn. Davy Cooper's corner kick. McLeish wins it. Dave Speedie looking for a flick inside the box, but it went through to Speedie. Australia too will make their second substitution. They're going to bring on Farina, who is, as you would expect, a striker. And McAvennie was offside. It wasn't Dave Speedie, it was McAvennie who was slow coming back. And now the second change will be made for Australia. Now this undoubtedly is their last throw. They're taking their central defender Robbie Dunn and putting on a striker, 23-year-old Frank Farina. Dunn clearly not too pleased to come off, but the change is obviously a tactical one. It does not reflect in any way on Dunn's performance, which has been completely solid at the back. So Frank Arup makes his final gamble for Australia. There goes Odzakov going all the way. Chance. No at all for the Australians. Odzakov can scarcely believe it.
I can scarcely believe it.
Well, what a move that was. Let's see it again. Going through with skill, determination, strength. And this time he got the ball beyond Jim Leighton, who spread himself well, but it just evades the far post. And surely the Australians must be thinking it is not going to be their night.
That deserved a goal, there's no doubt about it. As you point out, even Jim Leighton couldn't do anything about it, although he did make the job more difficult for Odzakov at the last moment, but I think the ball was in the net.
That was great goalkeeping again to spread himself to make life difficult, but what a life that was for Scotland. And in the midst of that, a substitution has been made for Scotland. Dave Speedie's gone off and Graham Sharp has gone on. There's Patikas trying to get the byline. The goal kick's been given. The tackle was from Willie Miller. Well, the gods smiling undoubtedly on the Scotsman tonight. The scorelines do not reflect the efforts put in by Australia. They can undoubtedly be proud of their performance tonight against some very highly respected full-time European professionals. They put up a and could so easily have got the goals to keep them in the World Cup. And they're certainly not giving up by any means with Frank Farina on. Ken Murphy's been so influential in that midfield area. Released by Dundee United. This performance, it's hard to understand that. Perhaps, as Hugh McElvenny says, the odds are playing above themselves, but showing lots of skill. As Cooper goes forward and Yankos steps in, preventing Cooper getting the cross over. And he's had to concede a corner kick. And I wonder the final irony for Australia could be a Scottish goal later.
Well, it could very easily happen. They must feel now that they're just doomed to lose this match.
So Cooper with the in-swinger. Right across the far post, and commanding goalkeeping again from Greedy. He's never looked to be in trouble in the match. Long surging run from Murphy. Scott's getting back in. Well, he ran fully 60 yards back to join the Scottish defence. With a loose pass picked up by Sharp. The fresh legs in the Scottish attack. Cooper now on the right. Going to attack Graham Jennings. Playing it to the far side for Sharp. Well, he's clearly unhappy with his own header, the Everton striker. Australia have possession again. Aitken with the body check. The referee content simply to give the free kick. Crino went down, and it certainly looked as though he was inviting that infringement. Here he goes again, coming inside to attack the Scottish defence. Malpas with the interception. Was a hand used by Odzakov? No, says the referee, and it's McStay with the... Now Jennings back to Ratcliffe. Switching it wide to the far side to Davidson. Mitchell turning to make room for the shot. Covered all the way by Jim Leighton. And Mitchell did well, and he found himself in lots of space to make the effort.
Weariness is creating great gaps all over the field now for anybody who has the legs to exploit them. In these circumstances, you'd expect Scotland to have a very pronounced edge, but that's not really the case at the moment. Our own tiredness is liable to give Australia as many chances as theirs provides for us.
Good play from Sharp, going at the Australian defence by himself, trying to find room for a shot. And Murphy tidying up, kept the ball in play, did not concede the corner kick because Graham Sharp hoped. Just under 10 minutes left, still no scoring here at Olympic Park, Melbourne, as Scotland hang on to their World Cup dream. 2 goals in separating the sides. I think Adam looking anxiously at his watch. Eddie Thompson beside him, the former Hearts and Aberdeen player. The Australian coach, misjudged by McLeish. Up goes Miller. And that pass was intended for Jimmy Patikas, but was hit with too much power, allowing Leighton to collect. Leighton seeking out McAvennie once again. Sharp's extra height helping out the attack, but Dave Ratcliffe wins it for Australia. So can Scotland keep the scoreline the same for the last 10 minutes and guarantee their place in Mexico? Yankos trying to inspire a late surge by Australia. So a lot of very tired players out there. Dave Mitchell going through, over carrying the ball, allowing Leighton to gather. Certainly hasn't stopped trying from the first moment. The crowd, which appears to be in excess of 30,000 inside the stadium, becoming somewhat subdued. The Scots just hoping that things stay the same. The Australians perhaps feeling that time is running away too quickly for their favourites. Gough's throw, McAvennie shielding the ball from Jennings. Getting it forward, Sharp going in behind Yankos. The throw goes to Australia, much to the annoyance of Sharp.
It won't be much consolation to the men in the gold and green shirts, but they have played with extraordinary courage, determination. They take a massive amount of credit from this match. I don't think there's one of them in the Australian squad who feel anything other than great pride about what has happened here at Olympic Park.
Jim Leighton with the unhurried goal kick. Playing it forward, no one in attack for the moment for Scotland. Greedy anxious to get the ball back to play. Well, Alec Ferguson will undoubtedly be aware that this is a substandard Scottish performance, but it still looks good enough to let Scotland qualify for the World Cup finals. Patikas again, working tirelessly in the Australian cause. Back it goes to Davidson. Leighton is committed. Failed to commit himself without winning the ball. Scotland have only lost 5 in their last 9 internationals, and Jim Leighton is undoubtedly one of the reasons for that fine defensive record. Attacking the ball positively and winning it despite the attentions of Murphy. the Australians come forward. The interception was by Aitken. Souness completes the job. Taking the ball for a run. Farina thinks otherwise, so does Davidson. Sharp back for Scotland. Davidson gets the ball wide. That's good play. Odzakov has it. He certainly made an impact in the match since he came on. Patikas thought about the long-range effort. Picked out Kosmina. Farina looking for the chance to cross. Odzakov again. Souness is escorting him toward the byline. Malpas also there. Odzakov. Malpas must deny him the chance to get the crossover. He'll take the corner kick, I think. 12 may have gone for the throw. Yes, the linesman indicating a throw in. So the tension remains for the Scots. Headed away by Graham Sharp. So just 5 minutes left. 5 minutes between Scotland and the World Cup finals. Certainly being achieved without glory. But sure, that's the least of the Scottish worries for the moment. And the header again goes wide. Farina attacking the ball. So Scots again happy to have the goal kick. So some earnest conversation on the Scottish bench as Leighton gets the ball back in play. Well, we went through tense in Cardiff to reach this stage in the competition, and we're going through something similar once again, although the 2-goal cushion has made life infinitely more comfortable for the Scots. The late surge from Australia could make the last few minutes unbearable for the Scots in the stadium. Here's Cooper. McStay, good angle for Scotland. McAvennie tackled instantly. So was McStay.
Even at this late stage, we're seeing that when Australia have the confidence to attack Scotland on the ground, they tend to make much better progress than they do when they rely on high balls aimed particularly at mid.
Souness sending it forward, inviting a run from McAvennie. Certainly still playing with lots of determination, but it hasn't really been his night. The West Ham striker has been arriving just a little bit late throughout the match. Here's Odzakov. Now Davidson. Ratcliffe coming up, number 5. Looking for the pass inside. Patikas again turning and weaving at the edge of the box. Miller goes all the way with him. Down goes Patikas. The referee acting exactly the same as he did to the Scottish claims, and I think perfectly correctly on that occasion. Well, Hugh, a couple of minutes left. What are your reflections on the match?
Well, most of them are bound to be unhappy, but I think if we conduct consolation, we can at least come up with a very, very big consolation in the growing evidence that in a truly outstanding goalkeeper, and that's the sort of asset that we've been short of through much of our recent history. I think that you'd have to go back a couple of decades to Bill Brown to find a Scottish goalkeeper as reassuring as this man, and perhaps even as far back as Jimmy Cowan to find someone capable of such a save.
Against Murphy, and free kick. Taken by Richard Gough. Gough pumps the high ball. Won by Aitken. Dumped away by Yankos. McLeish playing it forward. Great chance for Farina for Australia, and the interception, easy one for McLeish to make. McAvennie has gone offside as the Australians pushed forward in support of the creative work in midfield. Now Davidson. Now I think that the Australians have resigned themselves to the fact that their World Cup effort, superb though it has been, is over. Aitken now looking for support around him. Souness towards McStay, still going forward. And the instant chip shot didn't beat Terry Greedy, but was very well conceived by Sharp. Good play once again from Paul McStay for Scotland. Here's Murphy. Misunderstanding up front. Dave Mitchell coming short of the pass and lighted it forward. There's the signs, good day, Lark Hall. 12 miles away, but the message is clear. And final anxiously awaited by the Scots, the Australians. Scotland all finishing the match on the attack with this free kick. Richard Gough or Graham Souness will eventually take. Gough making a forward run, leaving things to Souness. Graham Sharp is the target. Aitken going in. But it's a free kick against Sharp for a bit of pushing and an exchange of the unfriendly type between Sharp and Ratcliffe. Frustration clearly for the Australian defender. Attacking the ball well to nod it for the throw for Australia. And there goes the whistle. Jubilation on the Scottish bench. The purpose of the trip served. For Mexico. They didn't do it with style, they didn't derive any glory from the performance, but they played with cautious professionalism. Had an inspired goalkeeper in Jim Leighton, and undoubtedly it's Jim Leighton who takes all the credit tonight for Scotland. There have been some other good performances, notably from Paul McStay in midfield, Richard Gough in defence, but it was Leighton who carried the day for Scotland. It was Leighton who kept the score sheet blank. And as a result, with the scoreline, Australia 0, Scotland 0, Scotland will make a trip to Mexico once again for the World Cup finals in Glasgow.
Well, there we are. We'll take a break here. Rejoin us for a postscript to the big match in a couple of minutes. Now, back from Kenny and McLeish, the Scott Sport World Cup. And if you just come in and don't know the score, it was 0-0 in Melbourne Park. That Australia are out of the World Cup, and Scotland become the 24th and last to go into the World Cup finals. And Scotland, the latest news will tell us that it's 25-1 Scotland winning the World Cup. So get your bets on. Kerry, but I take issue with Hugh Manny's comment that this was a miserable performance. I just don't go along with it. And I know you found a lot of good things in the Scottish performance as well.
Obviously, they like to have improved their own performances, but at the end of the day, in a World Cup tie, it's all about the result.
Sure.
I mean, if they went to play teams and end up like nothing each, and they'd missed a couple and we'd missed a couple, we said they would have played really well.
Yes.
I mean, I've got to take into consideration the fact that what the lads had to travel 12,000 miles to Australia. Jet lag's a terrible thing, as they'll find out themselves. Sitting there and the criticism of the lads, okay, probably some of them would like to have played a bit better, but I'm that we've won. They made as many chances as they did.
Yes. And, as we have said, gave a great performance, and he was well supported by the back four. They all played superbly, didn't they?
Alan McLeish, Richard Gough, Willie Miller, Morris